welcome to Koicast. I am Coy Jandro. I'm a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. It is a beautiful day here in sunny Los Angeles, California. We are ignoring the news, we are ignoring the world, we are enjoying the weather and the pop culture, because sometimes that's the best way to stay sane. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing all right. I like that we started the show in the center of a politically dividing what's the word I'm looking for here?
Situation?
No. Pandemic. Jesus, I couldn't come up with pandemic.
I was like, I don't know what word you're going
That's
for.
the kind of morning I'm having.
Yep, it's been a day.
Also, middle of one of the biggest social justice movements.
Yep.
And we had entire episodes that were just dedicated to screaming.
Yep.
And now we're just bury our heads in the sand.
Sometimes I gotta, and it's not every week, but this week I'm gonna go for it.
You know what?
Frankly, it's been a week.
You know what? We're not going to talk about all the nonsense in news.
Nope.
But
what are we gonna do?
let's suggest some people read some things.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead. I've mentioned on the show before.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people haven't given it a shot. I want everybody to go read Kevin Smith's The Evil That Men Do, the Spider-Man Black Cat story.
Yeah, that's a good one for right now.
Go ahead and read that one.
I co-sign that hard. I would also recommend reading. Ooh, what else is of the times? There's some interesting.
I know I put you on the spot here.
Yeah, immediately. There's some interesting first three arcs of The Boys that tie in.
Yes,
to
sure.
To this situation. That helps shape, worldviews.
What about women creators?
Gail Simone, very outspoken and very, incredible writer of teams and individual books.
Yeah.
I would recommend checking out anything Joelle Jones has done in art or writing.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of Jody Houser, who writes a ton for Marvel as well as some independent stuff.
Also, if you're not following Jody on Twitter, you're doing Twitter wrong.
You're just wrong. It just is. You are wrong. I would say Kelly Sue DeConnick is an absolute boss. I would say anything illustrated by Fiona Staples makes you a better person.
Great.
There's a bevy. There's a speed round bevy.
All right, so now we're not talking about the news.
Nope. Now we're diving into real news. We're going into
culture
fiction.
News.
We're going right into fiction. That is the start of the show.
By the way, it is it's a rare week where we are here this week.
We are. This is real time.
Generally, we don't bother doing news weekly because we record these two at a time, and generally the news is dated by the time we get to it. But we are here this week. We recorded this just this very week, and we're going to do it again next week, back to the regularly scheduled programming. But since we're here, and we know it is the hot and hotline heavy episode, but you're getting a
little taste of news as well, because this is both the end of Moon Knight as well as Doctor Strange, and against all odds, Jake saw it.
I mean,
Jake doesn't see movies first week. Jake doesn't see.
I had no goddamn choice if I wanted
to enjoy any part of it.
Yeah,
which frankly is to be decided. But that being said,
by the way, I was successful. Alexandra was not.
Oh.
We went to a 3 p.m. afternoon showing.
On Thursday,
and Alexandra was like, well, saw what's trending on Twitter.
That's insane. Literally the first show you could have seen.
Yep.
Well, that is, and actually, I don't know if you saw, but I was tweeting this is unacceptable. I also had to take 36 hours off the internet, and I went to the world premiere.
Yeah.
I literally saw the first show of it in the world, and I still had to tag out of the internet. And some people were like, "Oh, it's not so hard." But it's my job. It's not like I'm not in a position to other people where I can avoid the internet. Like, my job is internet based.
Yeah.
Which is insane. That being said, news-wise, we got our first Avatar trailer, which I've still not watched because I want to see it in the theater for the first time. I've only been to Doctor Strange screenings. I haven't seen it in a regular theater, and it's attached to Doctor Strange. I'm very lukewarm on the Avatar world, so I'm trying to give it as much of a chance as I can to have the spectacle. That's why I haven't watched it at home, because I want to watch the trailer for the first time on the big screen.
So it was attached to Doctor Strange.
You've seen it.
And I also don't have a huge investment, but I just love him so much.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, anything James Cameron wants to put in front of me, I'll watch.
Right.
Yeah,
same. I'm likewise. That's why I'm trying to give it a chance.
And I will say this though, maybe it's because you said you're going to see it regardless. That's the difference. For me, watching the trailer, which isn't really a trailer, it's a sizzle reel more than anything. It's just a couple visuals. It's just a couple visuals.
Yeah.
It's just hey, look at them doing this. Look at them. There's nothing to it. There's nothing.
It's not a plot at all.
No, there's nothing. There's there's one line in the entire trailer.
Okay.
And it's at the end. It's mostly just visuals.
Yeah.
It kind of made me go oh, this will be fun. It actually made me more interested because it just looks cool. But I mean, it's Avatar. I'm I am hoping that we live in a very different world now than we did when Avatar 1 came out, that these will actually be kind of exceptional, because I think James Cameron is the sort of director who, even though he literally lives in his own world, it's 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh yeah.
He is also the person who's not like, I don't think his ego is the same as other writer directors' egos, where like he probably saw all the criticism of Avatar and went like, oh shit.
Oh, I do have to change the world.
Like, oh, we did call it unobtainium, didn't we?
Yeah, we really, 15 years ago, and we haven't made one since. Like, there's a lot.
I kind of think that maybe he, like, there's a team is going to be better for this. Like, this is post Marvel world now, post like all of these things that we've had.
It's a new world of blockbusters.
Exactly.
Everything's changed.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of, bygone franchises that have been revitalized in awesome ways, Cobra Kai, which Jake still hasn't seen yet, is getting an earlier release. It is now coming out in September with its season 5, I want to say. I watch them. I don't know what season it is. So Jake's got a lot of great Cobra Kai goodness to come at you.
Yeah, I can't
And
wait.
they announced that this week. Yeah, you're specifically going to love it. Now we should talk, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk Moon Knight on this show, and we're going to give a brief non-spoiler talk about Doctor Strange. But if you want our full spoiler thoughts, we have just kicked off a brand spanking new patron-only pod for Koicast listeners. So if you guys want, we always review the art we've consumed that week, whether it's film, TV, sometimes museum, sometimes it's plays, but whatever art we've enjoyed, Jake and I break down and dissect and just talk happily generally about what we've enjoyed. But we're going to be doing Doctor Strange over there, but we will briefly be talking about it here as well because it's Koicast and it's a giant release from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's start with Moon Knight though, because that dropped first.
Oh boy, spoilerific Moon Knight.
Diving in all the way. It's been a week. I think it's fair.
All right. I heard a lot of people dogging on the finale.
I didn't love it as much as the rest.
Oh, I'm upset with everybody who's dogging on it.
I love that for once you love something more than me.
I will say this. I have a huge problem with it, but it has nothing to do with what was shown to me. It was the execution drives me crazy. I hate that we have gotten to a point now where Marvel needs to not just end a show and then roll credits. Because when the credits rolled, Alexandra and I both looked at each other and were like, well, that was wildly unfulfilling.
Yeah.
And then
the real ending happened.
And then the real ending happened.
Which should have been the ending.
And we just went, that's everything. That was everything I needed to know. It's an incredible ending. Everything that was teased to you, wrapped up in a way where it feels open-ended the way good things are open-ended.
But it doesn't feel like you have closure still.
Exactly. It feels like there's closure, whereas
I think the literal insertion of the credits there affected my entire experience. To be honest.
I hated it. I was so pissed after the actual scene ended. I was like, why didn't that come
And those
before?
45 seconds were enough for me to be like,
Exactly.
And I don't love that I'm that way, but it isn't an ending.
Like I said, Alexandra both turned at each other and we literally almost in unison went like, that was unfulfilling. That was unfulfilling. I feel like I'm like, that's it. Like what? Wait, what? Like,
because they could have done a post-credit scene of even like fucking, I don't care, Khonshu walking through the deck. Like I would have rather had an unfulfilling post-credit scene.
Comedy.
Or nothing at all.
Give us a comedy post-credit.
Than the real ending.
There's so much stuff that so many little places that we visited along the way.
And there's got to be a deleted scene that would have worked.
There's anything. Literally, you could have just went back. The post-credit scene could have just literally been the informant guy, the gold statue in the park with people talking to him, or Steve just yapping his ear off about like the adventure.
Any of that's great.
Yeah. We didn't need.
But don't make the real ending tacked on as if it wasn't the real ending, because that's the difference between a post-credit scene and an ending.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. I think that I'm critical a lot of times of like sort of high concept. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I can actually probably tell you exactly the episode number because now the patron only pod is
very well,
super organized,
beautifully done
on patron only pod number 92, which was March 15th of this past year.
Wow.
When we went over movies that one of us loves more than the other.
Kicks this week's 100.
That's right. Yeah.
So yesterday's.
Yeah. So on that episode, on episode 92, we talked about Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
And one of the things I hated about Donnie Darko was that it felt to me like visuals and concepts, but no emotional through line.
Mm-hmm.
It felt a little bit pretentious. It felt like, we don't actually need to be cohesive. People will love that it's weird and all over the place.
Sure.
In Moon Knight, the emotional thread was so strong for me and so easy to empathize with and easy to just like, feel along with our characters, that the like highfalutin, high conceptness of them like going back and forth only added to it and only made it seem cool. Versus
for me, it wasn't as WandaVision-y as WandaVision where it changed tone, but I did feel like we abandoned all the psychology for the final episode. Like we didn't really have moments of like, if you watched it back to back, we only had Steven gone for like 15 minutes and there was no time in the reads for him to grow. There was no time for Mark to evolve out of the person that would have killed Ethan Hawke's character. All of that just was assumed, and I hate at the end of anything superhero when they're like, I've killed 100 people, but I won't kill the one guy that deserves it just because I've grown a conscience. I would have liked to have seen him grow a conscience in the Field of Reeds.
I agree, but I don't think the Field of Reeds was the spot for that. In order to get to the Field of Reeds, you have to be that. It's part of the religion. So
I'm saying,
really,
I'm saying part of the journey would have been earning the Field of Reeds.
See, my argument is that he did earn the Field of Reeds in his time with Steven.
Right.
He might have not had the epiphany, but the change had already occurred.
See, I just didn't feel the emotional weight of Steven joining with him like I wanted to, because once they were both like, that fight where they're flipping back and forth, incredible. I didn't feel the emotional weight. I got the visual action weight, and that's the same issue I had with WandaVision.
It's like I said when the show started, I still feel like, even though I loved it, I really loved it so hard, I still feel like, God, some of the fighting to me was just like, whatever, move on.
Yeah, well, like, that's what's funny, because everybody's like, not enough Moon Knight. I'm like, the right amount of Moon Knight, because I'm enjoying Mark and Steven very much.
Me too.
And it's still like a solid B+ A- for me. Yeah. And for me, it's like Loki's still supreme. But
I think Loki will be my favorite always, just because it's my genre.
It's also it stuck the landing in a way that I can't believe they ended with Shakespeare. Like Kang waxing philosophical. That's so brave.
It's just, Loki's just such my shit. That it's always going to be, and it's not just such my shit, it's such my shit handled with care.
Right.
Because like Doctor Who is my shit, and I haven't been watching that for a while because at one point I felt like it wasn't being handled with care.
I feel like it's my Winter Soldier, where it's like, the bar's so high, I don't know what could take this. Where it's like, this one.
Yes.
That said, Moon Knight and WandaVision are kind of dancing at number 2. They're both so good.
It was really good. The performance was great. I loved. God, I just wish that fucking ending would have been crammed onto the actual ending, because the second I saw the limo, I was like, oh, it's not a taxi, but he's still a chauffeur.
Yes.
And all the little
Spanish. I loved that they just changed him to fit Oscar.
All right. I'll find a gripe here outside of that. It wasn't unfulfilling, but it is a little weird to me that like Khonshu's like, oh, don't worry, we have Jake. But it's still just like, he's still just gonna shoot you. He's still just gonna be like, he's still just gonna like turn around and shoot him with a gun. There wasn't it wasn't like it's not like Moon Knight did it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
did it.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jake has no problem doing it.
Exactly.
So like it validates Khonshu, but it doesn't validate Moon Knight.
Exactly. Yeah. But honestly, it's super fun.
Man with gun will travel. Like
I turned over once that happened. Then we were both like, that was incredible. It felt so fulfilling, and it just felt so awesome. And I know I'm alone on this, but good God, I hope we never see these characters in the MCU again.
And you're very alone there, because I really want to see Steven interacting with anyone.
It just feels to me like it was such a beautiful bow
by itself.
It's sort of how I felt after Endgame, where I was like, no more. I don't need any more of this.
But then we never would have gotten Shang-Chi and the things you do enjoy.
But here's the thing: is Shang-Chi we didn't. That's not more of it.
Right.
Shang-Chi's a new thing.
Yeah.
We didn't get more of it.
You know, Campbell was almost in Moon Knight. Campbell Nanjiani.
I feel like I remember us doing a story on that. Also, wait a minute, what's his face also supposed to be in there as well? The singer from Hamilton,
Daveed Diggs.
Daveed Diggs was supposed to be a part of this.
Yeah,
I wonder what he was supposed to be. Yeah, because I remember when
I was so excited when we such a big Daveed Diggs.
Only because I remember I made the art when it was like all their faces.
I was wondering if he was another voice and stuff. But
we were all speculating. We were speculating that each of the different people were going to be a different voice.
Because it seemed like that they would kind of line up.
Wasn't Jake Johnson also in there somewhere?
Maybe. I definitely remember Daveed. But anyway, so overall, really dug it. Really stuck the landing.
And I just hate that they just didn't just show the ending when the ending happened.
That was a big issue. But overall, stuck the landing. It definitely had some of the punchy Marvel problem for me with same that WandaVision did. But overall, very, very successful, hard to translate character. Like Moon Knight, and they still get the twist at the end.
It's beautiful. It was also just beautiful. Like, I just love the Egyptian mythology, and I just love like the fact that we literally got these two giant Egyptian gods fighting as like freaking kaiju over it was just it's so fucking cool to me. I loved it.
And the scope was great. I really dug it. So if you haven't watched Moon Knight yet, well, we just spoiled a lot, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. It was quite the thing. We've got 1 month from this week actually until Miss Marvel, Marvel is cranking out stuff. We got a week, we got a month, and then we got another show. And in the meantime, we of course have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let's talk briefly, some non-spoilers. You want a full talk, we're going to be doing that over in the Patron-only pod. But in the meantime, I know Jake and I both have some grievances with this one.
Man, I hate to say it, least favorite in the Marvel.
The whole thing.
Of
the whole MCU.
And the whole thing.
Wow.
And it's only because even though I wasn't a fan of Captain Marvel, I had no emotional connection because it was an introduction. This movie takes characters that I already have an emotional connection to, that I've loved for however many years and how I've watched, and then changes direction with them. It's why like a bad season of TV feels worse than a bad first pilot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good perspective.
And man, I don't hate Sam Raimi. I know that I dogged on the Spider-Man movies. It's not my style. I just, if you listen to the Patron only pod, I just recently watched Darkman, and I was like, I get it. Like, I love it. I love Army of Darkness. I love the Evil Dead movies. Like,
Hell's a blast.
Raimi works in a specific way that's really fun. Him with these action figures to me just felt mismatched personally, and it was just not my shit. To me, it was a ball drop.
So this is in my lower third. So not so high, and there hasn't been a movie in my lower third in Marvel for a bit, because I think they've been on a really good tear. I would agree that as much as I love Sam Raimi as a filmmaker and as an individual, like I'm so happy to see him happy, which is a weird thing to say, but like the movie felt like joy. Like the movie felt like Sam Raimi having a good time, and I'm sure a lot of Sam Raimi heads are going to be obsessed with it. So I think if you love Sam Raimi, you're going to love it. If you love Marvel, you might like it, but if you love the MCU, it is a bit of an underserved to a lot of characters and a lot of arcs that we've had an emotional through line through. It definitely disparages a lot of WandaVision, which is one of my favorite things.
Well, the news that has come out, and we'll talk more about this on the POP, was that Sam Raimi did not watch WandaVision.
Yeah, he got notes.
And all I'll say is that makes sense.
And it's literally 3 hours.
So yeah, I don't know. That's all. I don't know. We can get into the fine details later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It's just, I agree. And I still recommend, if you enjoy horror, thriller, that whole tone, go see it. And it is something that will be much lesser on video. And if you really want to support Marvel hiring directors and letting them go full bore, I also recommend that. Like, this is Marvel taking a big old swing and letting a director be that director. It's just not my cup of tea.
Can I say this is an instance where I just think about the current state of Marvel characters, and I think, God, what if Sony had just gotten Sam Raimi to do Morpheus?
Oh man, a Sam Raimi Morpheus.
Do you know what I mean?
Incredible.
Like I think ultimately my problem with this isn't the Sam Raimi; it's the Sam Raimi with these characters, with these action figures. If they'd have just given him a different action figure, and by the way, introduce a new action figure, that way it's that style.
Yeah, that's great. Because definitely, my issue is it's the 34th installment in the MCU. That's the issue of it all.
Exactly.
It's this episode of TV.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it more in the Patron only pod, but those are our brief thoughts. It is worth seeing, but it is in the lower third for me anyway. And we'll get to that further. But as far as news-wise, box office, it is doing bananas. It made $185 million domestic, which is giant. But that's the 11th highest grossing of all time. Like that's big even for Marvel. Like that's huge.
Yeah.
And that is 30. What's interesting to me is 36% of that is IMAX and premium large format.
Right.
So it is a movie people saw big and loud, as it should be. And that's what I mean. As much as I was meh with it, it is something that will be lesser on video. Like I don't know if I'll watch this at home.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle. So check it out there. And then it made $265 million international for a grand total of 450 worldwide. $500 million worldwide. Opening weekend is bananas. That being said, I'm very curious about the drop-off. Now, I'm expecting, if people like it, to have anywhere between 45 and 55% drop-off. If people don't like it, word of mouth, all those things, I'm curious what the drop-off looks like between week 1 and week 2. That said, there isn't any competition because Marvel, is the onslaught it is. Nobody's opening a movie this weekend. And then next weekend is pretty light. The 27th, the final weekend of May, is one of the craziest release dates I've ever seen. The last week of this month is Bob's Burgers, Top Gun, 7 hours of Stranger Things, and Obi-Wan. So people are going to be between streaming and in theaters. People are going to be going in LA. People are going to Star Wars Celebration, but people at home are going to be watching Stranger Things and Obi-Wan. And then in the theaters, you've got two very different tentpoles. One, a giant blockbuster with nostalgia, and one, a brand new, IP. So the 27th is a crazy day in entertainment, but that's really the next thing. So Doctor Strange has a big old run to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time right now where everything's like, we're actually getting less releases than we've ever gotten. There's only one release.
It doesn't feel that way. But
it doesn't,
because
but it's
of streaming.
But
because of streaming.
I was looking at it. The first week of June, one movie. Second week of June, two movies. Third week of June, very light. And then 4th of June, one movie. That's unheard of. June is usually insane.
Is that only national releases?
Yeah, like
it's
a
not
full
counting,
wide
it's
releases.
not counting limited. Yeah, right.
But like that's still, it's June.
No. Yeah, you're right.
So
it's
but it feels like we're overwhelmed because we're not just in movie theaters.
Yeah.
So between that and then, the Marvel things coming out, it's interesting how things are running away from releases, but also how we're feeling overwhelmed while I'm still worrying about the exhibition side of movies because I'm a theater junkie. So.
Oh, that's the other thing we didn't get into. The streak is alive, by the way. People behind me. Yeah. People behind me just talking through the whole goddamn movie at Doctor Strange.
I just
literally it's at the point now where there's no. Also, a friend of the show, Robin West Parker.
Same.
We went and took a walk with the dogs the other night and was saying the exact same thing. Literally had to scold somebody in the theater. Our friend Tybee, Tybee Diskin on Twitter talked about. I'm telling you, man. I know that I might have been at the forefront of the bad luck,
but now it's spreading.
It's coming for all of you.
Yeah, you guys wonder why I leverage myself to make sure I see press screenings, even if they're quieter and not as exciting. It's better than the alternative.
Yep.
I just saw a statistic. It said we are 5 months into the year, and there have only been 30 wide release movies in theaters.
Wow.
30 out of 5.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So we will see, like I said, 11th biggest unadjusted for inflation, opening weekend of all time, doing very well. Now, it is the Hot and Hotline heavy week. So you, my dear co-hosts, what do you got to say? Let's check them out.
Hello, KoiCast. It is the masked llama of the legendary Fighting Federation, and I am calling because I was wondering, with the success of Spider-Man in the multiverse and hopefully the success of Doctor Strange in the multiverse, multiverses and parallel realities are about to become a very big thing in Hollywood, and Hollywood loves to jump on the next big thing. So I was thinking we're probably going to see some other multiverse inserted into other genres. Connor, what would you all do? How would you all write a multiverse rom-com? I'd be intrigued on your thoughts. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.
I would love a multiverse rom-com because I love that multiverses kind of give you a therapeutic reflection on self and the butterfly effect of it all, of changes and realities and how you'd improve yourself. And maybe there's no better genre than a rom-com about self-improvement. There's always that arc where someone realizes something about themselves and that makes them better in the relationship and that makes them better as a person. You got to heal yourself before you get in a relationship in real life. And some of the best rom-coms reflect that you need to be fully you and fully formed before you can be part of someone else. Because relationships are 3 people, you, your partner, and then the third entity that you become. That's why I'd argue breakups hurt so much because that third entity dies. So I think that a rom-com.
I wish you guys would have seen the dramatic hand gestures that accompanied that sentence.
It was very intense. That said, I think a rom-com with a multiversal side would be combining all the best of the old school rom-com tropes of that growth and that walkabout aspect, but also you could throw in the 50 First Dates flavor. You could do, some crazy, stupid love, twisty hijinks. You could do a lot with the multiverse rom-com. What do you think, Jake?
I am struggling because there's got to be
there's got to be one. But I got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of even just multiverse movies to start with that have some semblance of a love element.
There's love and everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the best multiverse movie.
I don't know why, but literally when I typed in multiverse rom-com, the first thing that comes up is Family Guy, Back to the Multiverse. I don't think that's
I guess
that's
Peter
a video,
loves his wife.
It's a video game, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is really interesting. We got a little bit of multiverse rom in Marvel with What If and Doctor Strange too.
And that was some of the best stuff for me was the Rachel McAdams getting to act opposite, not her Strange, but their universal love.
And there is something to be said about there are rom-coms like 50 First Dates or Palm Springs or
high concept rom-coms
or About Time, which I just love so much. Like movies where there is a fantastical element to it in a way where it is about meeting somebody that you love who maybe doesn't know you or isn't the version of that person that you
just
loved.
extrapolate it out to this version.
I mean, in a way, The Notebook is not a rom-com, but a rom for sure.
Yep, definitely a rom.
I mean, it's a beautiful concept. I mean, it's pretty much like you said, like the idea that there is a different version of you that has different life experience to an extent has become a different person.
I'd also love to see one where it doesn't work out over multiple multiverses. Like, you know what I mean? Like the idea that some people are meant to be together, some people aren't, and no matter how much you change, like it'd be dark.
I think the problem with the rom-com element is that generally they're pretty low stakes.
Right.
And once you start fucking with the fabric of reality, those
it's pretty stakes. I mean, things change a bit. Basically, once the butterfly effect might affect more than just your relationship, we got to change that calm. That said, I'd love to see like a 500 Days of Summer that was like the darker rom-com where like he or she pursues he or she, and then at the end they have to like let it go and fall in love with someone else. Like I'd love for someone to meet their autumn at the end of the movie and be like, I went through a whole multiverse to find you, and that's cute.
Love it.
There's my pitch.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Jake. This is Gilbert in the Bay Area, and I just had a question for you. That's kind of a follow-up to my last one. I mentioned the Web Warriors in a punk band, and now I want to know about Peter Parker's side project, because there is also a symbiote Spider-Man in the game, and then there are 4 other symbiotes. There's Venom, there's Carnage, there's Anti-Venom, and there's Scream, who's not to be confused with Shriek. So I'm assuming this is some sort of black metal screamo band. I know those are completely different genres, but I want you to assign the instruments to each of these members. I'm assuming Scream is the singer, but your meter may vary. Maybe you have other ideas. What would the name of the band be? And what's the specific genre you would go for? And then, final question, if there's a battle of the bands, what are their lineups? What songs are they doing if they're all covers? That's it. Y'all have a wonderful couple weeks. Blessed be to everyone, and later.
Did you write down the members?
Yes, I wrote down the members.
I saw that. Yep, I was like, I need those too. I was also distracted because I don't know if there was a dog in his lap or if it was like a windshield wiper.
So there was a sound in your recording. Gilbert Short, by the way, Gilbert Short, current unpunchable gift horse of the month.
The man's unpunchable, and he's a gift horse.
I didn't know whether it sounded like a dog whining,
right? Because it was so intermittent, but then it got to be a pattern
because he's clearly in a car.
So is he driving with a dog? Or because the pattern seemed to offer wipers.
Or a windshield wiper, but not enough rain.
Right. It's not lubed up enough. So it like squeaked. It like caught.
Oh, man.
Please follow up.
If only the Batman was on the case.
Frankly, he'd know. Okay. So I was, for whatever reason, my name is because it's ironic, and I feel like bands like ironic names.
Okay.
Since it's their weakness, they'd go by the Symbiote Sonics.
Okay. Can I like that.
Okay. You want to add to it?
Can I make it more dumb ironic?
Okay, sure.
Keep the symbiote because it describes what they are.
There it is.
But it is symbiote Spidey, Venom,
sure,
Carnage, Anti-Venom, and Scream.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be called the Symbiote 7.
But there's 5 of them.
Exactly.
I like it. The Symbiote Sonic 7.
There we go.
Let's go all the way.
Triple
Let's
S.
combine it up. There it is. Alliteration like Stanley intended.
Yeah.
Okay,
Symbiote
so
Sonic 7.
I immediately
or
think,
just the Sonic 7.
There it is.
Yeah, we don't need
Sonic
the symbiote
7.
because you've already come up with the other S. I was trying to do alliteration. Yeah.
Now we team.
The
Okay,
Sonic 7, which is ironic because there's only 5 of them.
And because they're allergic to Sonics.
At least in my opinion, like Venom and Eddie.
That's 2.
And Carnage and
so it's either 10
Cassidy.
members or 5 members.
Because I do consider like Anti-Venom, the whole point is that it's 1. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Anyway.
So Flash Thompson doesn't count as an entity anymore to you?
No.
Okay.
For Anti-Venom?
Yeah.
No, because he's no, he does, but he isn't like it's all about like he has control of it. Like they are no longer 2 things combining. It's
they've actually achieved symbiosis.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
It's about the symbiosis.
So I also think we need to find, and I don't know if Gilbert thought of this, but there needs to be some sort of way they don't hurt themselves, because if they're playing loud music, That is against the symbiote.
So maybe
message.
that's the irony. Maybe they're just like a folk band, a
that's
small
really
acoustic
funny.
folk band.
They just play acoustic.
They're a small acoustic folk band,
or they're
who's like really, and they do like elevator whisper quiet folk music.
It's like a calmer Mumford and Sons.
Oh yeah, there's no drums,
0 drums.
It's all like,
or
right.
they're a metal punk band. Like I know there's 2 genres as well, but like they're just like self-flagellating. Like they like the pain. Like they're so punk. They're like Henry Rollins, where they're like cutting themselves and throwing up on stage.
I mean, it's not as funny as them playing harps and shit.
I do like the idea. Very true. Like Venom on the harpsichord.
Yeah.
And also, if they're called
Scream-
the Sonic 7 and they literally are just like,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Symbiote Spidey plays the mandolin.
I like it.
Okay.
Venom on banjo.
Banjo's
Eddie-
too loud. No percussion instruments. Banjo's a percussion instrument.
Okay, you're right.
It uses a drum head.
Okay.
I think Venom
on the recorder. Like a 7th grade
but
recorder.
Wait, what about instead of a recorder, like a pan flute? So we get that earthy tone.
I want it, but I also want him to use the symbiote to make sure he hits the different. Like I want to see.
Well, that's what
I'm saying. It's
okay.
like the visual was.
Oh no, right? Because a pan flute, you just pick.
You're just
hold
yeah.
It. Yeah.
I want the recorder because I want him to use his symbiote.
Wait, why don't we go classic? Let's just a flute because the recorder is in front of you.
Oboe.
Flute. No, oboe's. It is funny to watch him try a reed instrument.
Yep.
All right, oboe.
And also way more fun to say, frankly.
Oboe.
Venom on the oboe. Spider-Man on the harp.
The
mandolin. That's right.
Mandolin. We've got an oboe. Carnage.
Okay, what's the
is
no percussion?
Well, no, but you know what I'm thinking we're gonna go is I think Carnage is gonna be the one who plays the what is it called? I want to say it's called an auto chord, or it's a popular thing. God, what is it called?
The Carnage on the bagpipes.
Way too loud. What are you kidding me?
But he could use. Oh yeah.
Do you have any idea how loud a bagpipe is?
They're so loud.
What are you crazy me?
That's true. I'm killing him. Carnage.
He'll blow his brains out.
Poor guy. I was just thinking like a redhead and a kilt. I was trying to make it branding.
What is that? Is it called an auto chord? The name of this tool? It's essentially a small stringed instrument. A lot of like folk artists play them. And it's a small string instrument, and you essentially push a button down and it mutes strings that it will not play, and it will play the remaining chords. So it's a very simple, easy to use, easy to learn instrument.
Okay.
I'm just forgetting what it's called. And it's really popular. In fact, if here we go. There it is. What is this instrument called? Auto harp. Oh, it's called an auto harp.
Okay. Carnage on the auto harp.
So an auto. If anybody who has watched Arrested Development, when they were like the Funke family band, that's the instrument that she played. That's the auto harp, right?
That's great. Okay. That leaves Scream, who is definitely on vocals, but like it's like
he whispers. Everything is a whisper.
Just a whisper.
Yeah.
Just like
it's like I always joke that Billie Eilish has never opened her mouth once.
It's like a mumblecore.
It's mumblecore like folk music.
Yeah, into that. And then who's left?
Anti-Venom.
Oh wait, no, Anti-Venom on the anti-harp is kind of funny. I kind of like
auto harp.
You know what I mean? Because it's
right.
the cancellation.
You're right. And Carnage,
too much energy.
Carnage has too much energy for that.
We need a rapid but quiet. what's really quiet but also speedy.
Okay, I did say no percussion, but there are percussion instruments that are very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be a really sweet bongo player.
I also like the vibe because Woody Harrelson played Carnage, and you know that man plays a mean bongo.
Yeah,
there it is in canon. Woody Harrelson.
He's just like they're all around earth percussion instruments, but they're all the quiet. They're like doumbeks and djembes, like
and
the
that
instruments.
little thing you flick, the little.
Yep. They're all the sort of instruments that are like small
real
and
earthy
quiet.
band.
Yeah, earth band. Yeah,
ironic considering they're aliens.
Sonic 7,
just like the Sonic 7's ironic. This I can almost guarantee you this is the exact opposite of what Gilbert was expecting, and I like that for us.
Did he ask what songs that they play?
He said, yeah, but I don't know any. They're all original.
Well, yeah. Well, they're it's very popular nowadays. They do like covers of pop songs,
but earthy
in this sort of vibe.
Yeah. They cover like Mudvayne and Britney Spears. They cover.
Yeah, they're all over
everything you want.
The top 40s.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. You're welcome. Kings of Leon's their favorite.
Coy, producer Jake, how you doing? Travis from Florida. More specifically now, working for the mouse. Question, more of a hypothetical I was thinking about while I was at work. Question is this, I started thinking, I was like, you know, if someone put their foot next to Wolverine's head, he'd probably cut it off. So that led me to wonder, what do you think your favorite superheroes would have done if they had if they have a terrible experience in a movie theater? Have a good one.
Travis, so Travis is talking about my terrible experiences in movie theaters, and I think he was referring to the time that somebody literally put their foot up, like in between the seats. And he was saying that if you did that and Wolverine was watching the movie, he'd probably murder you.
Deservedly.
So his question is, what would our favorite heroes' reactions be? I mean, my favorite of all of them is obviously Hulk.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Bruce Banner.
Because you've wanted to be Hulk in those moments.
Bruce Banner just sitting in the theater and like somebody's talking and he's like, his heart rate monitor is going. And he's like, excuse me, could you please be quiet? Because also, by the way, he's only seeing like bougie movies.
Oh, yeah.
So it's people who are talking through like a bougie movies.
Yeah. A Meryl Streep joint, a Criterion joint.
He's doing a lot of like making eye contact with other people who are also frustrated and being like, yeah, I know, I just asked him to be quiet, but he keeps talking, whatever. Exactly. And then eventually he just goes, oh no, oh no, oh no. And all of a sudden it's just like clunch, 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 and the seat just falls. There's people like in his lap who have fallen into him.
And he's already made eye contact and he's embarrassed, but now he's the Hulk and he's raging.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Kurt Wagner.
Okay.
Who is a religious man, a pious man, who is trying to stay calm, knowing he could bamf anyone out of there, and he could literally remove them from the theater, but he's so devout, and he's so trying to understand the ways of these people, and also not reveal himself. So Kurt Wagner with an image inducer, just trying to control the fact that he could solve this problem, but not.
I love everything about that. I love everything about that. I also, he said heroes, but I'm going to go hero villain. I feel like it would be really funny if somebody, I'm trying to think of who else would be good, but the first person that comes to mind is Mysterio. If like, because I've always said this, like whenever I get like road rage or something, I always go like, I wish that I could inspire fear in them for the decision they made. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like in some way, shape, or form. I always joke. I told Alexandra, if I had a dream item, it would be like a gun that I can point that would act as an EMP and it would just disable a car, right?
Yeah.
But only for like 20 minutes.
Okay. So you
like,
get home.
Like literally just like you see somebody blow a stop sign, you just point, boop, and you disable the car and it just like slowly rolls to a stop.
Safely.
Yeah. Because it's just like when a car stalls, like you just have to like, right? And the brake lights automatically come on and everybody knows, right? And then like they just go like, God, and they pull up the hood and they're just like, shit, what's going on?
And it's
blah,
fine
blah,
in
blah.
like 15 more
and then like
minutes.
in 20 minutes, it just turns back on.
Yeah.
And I've just really inconvenienced them. And they've just like, right?
Inconvenience man.
And so if somebody was chatting and like Mysterio just all of a sudden made them feel like whatever the movie they were watching, like the characters stepped out of the movie.
Yeah. Well, you're describing like Nightmare.
And like
you want to be
up.
like.
Sure. But I guess the idea being that like, yeah, Nightmare would be work too.
Yeah.
Well,
like more mental.
But it doesn't have to be mental. It could be something
like him making a thing, and then it's like, and he's a movie theater guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Guy
that's
works
why
in the movie industry.
I think that's why I jumped. Maybe that's why it was the first. And then just like do something that I've always said, and I've probably said on the show, a huge investment or a small investment that would make a huge impact would be if like every time somebody was out there doing these goddamn press tours for movies, they just stood in front of a fucking screen with the goddamn logo, whoever like the star of the movie is, and recorded a spot to be played at the beginning of every movie, which is just like the star of the movie, whoever it is.
Don't talk.
Yeah, literally, if Benedict Cumberbatch and freaking Lizzie the Olsen, like did like, hey everybody, we worked really hard on this movie, and everybody in this theater with you paid a lot of money. Don't talk. Be quiet. Put your phone away. This isn't about you.
Yeah.
This is about everybody enjoying the work that we've put into this movie. Please don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Please don't be an asshole. Brought to you by AMC Theaters.
That's all you need.
Anyways, so yeah.
Heartbreak feels a little better in a place like this, Jake. So does
that
talking.
got the biggest, can I say?
It's the best.
But it got the biggest reaction out of everything in that movie in our theater.
You know, it started and I was like, what a waste of money. But now it's literally, it's metamodernism. It's literally it being so ridiculous has reflected our culture and now our culture has embraced it.
Meme culture.
And now it's the headliner. It is literally, I know people that recite it. I've gone to theaters and it becomes like a chant.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Weird days.
I would also, my final one, I got Bruce Wayne. First time back in a theater after his parents are killed. It's very personal. He's very emotional. He's trying to enjoy it.
Is it a movie theater or a like a theater production?
I like either one.
Okay.
Because I like the idea that he's trying to like therapize himself and he's like, he has trauma about the theater and someone starts talking and he uses his keen eye to immediately figure out all of their flaws and like eviscerates them. Like he just takes them out because it's like, he was trying to be safe. He was trying to feel comfy.
I like that. Also, pretty much anybody in any comic book who's a teen girl, because she could just turn around and just make fun of somebody.
Oh, and like,
yeah,
just
no superpowers needed.
Jubilee.
No superpowers needed.
Fireworks not necessary.
No.
She's just really cutting.
Just cut him down.
Anyone
just be like, that's the shirt you wore? Really?
Anyone in the boys.
Yeah.
Any cast member of the boys.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Jake. This is Ben from Altadena, and I had an idea for something that would be cool that will never happen based on having recently watched The Northman, and, Robert Eggers has this really unique style and says that he only wants to work in historical time periods, but I was thinking, like, what if he and Neil Gaiman teamed up for a prestige limited series on HBO Max that was based just on the historical and mythological vignettes from The Sandman? Like, wouldn't that be the coolest thing ever? So that I was thinking about that, and so my question for you is, like, what would be some dream pairings of, like, director and material for you if you were going to choose a director who is way too unique and out there to fit into the system of, like, the core cinematic universe for Marvel or DC, but might have, like, an interesting take on some of the more fringe material where they can kind of be off in their own disconnected world. So interested to hear what ideas you guys have, and have a great week. Thanks.
Love this question because it's similar to a thing we do often, which is pairing, but it's more peripheral. It's not the core stuff. I'm going to start with your Eggers one, and I'm going to go, I love the Gaiman idea, and I love him touching Sandman, but my first thought when you said him, because of how much I love Northman, and probably the only way I'd be excited for this property to be translated to film, I want to see a Savage Land Khazar movie. I want to see Khazar rated R with the entire Savage Land, and it's Khazar like fighting dragons. He's got a tiger, like his pet Sabretooth. I mean, he's got this whole jam. She-Ra, like the whole thing, but Eggers making it tangible. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And as far as I think a really cool day in the life movie in the Spider-Man universe. I'd love to see Harry Osborn, Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker, Flash Thompson. I want to see like the school or college, high school or college element as directed by Richard Linklater. I'd love to see a day in the life in the Marvel universe. Like, maybe you hear something on the news that ties into a fight that's already happened. Maybe like I don't want any action that isn't dialogue heavy, and I want a period piece day in the life Spider-Man movie.
That's pretty fantastic.
Like a 70s set, like Mary Jane getting to say all of her like catchphrases and like that. Like Face It Tiger, you just hit the jackpot as a big moment in a Linklater joint.
Right. I feel like there are certain titles that we bring up rather frequently on the program, and I'm trying to sidestep them. Yeah. Because I feel like we just have our
go-tos,
our comic biases.
That's why I went Khazar. I don't like Khazar ever.
I'm trying to think of because the reality is you say that like, oh, everything is out there. Like, we just got Moon Knight. Yeah. With like real out there. Like, so like, I don't know that rule necessarily is as in effect as it was like 5 years ago.
And strengths or cons, Sam Raimi made a not very mainstream film.
Like I said earlier, I mean, him doing something like Morbius. I realized earlier I said Morpheus.
I corrected
earlier.
it, but I did it subtly. So
appreciate that. Thanks for saving me.
A lot of people do it.
By this point, people have tweeted, this idiot said Morpheus.
I'm unsubscribing for the Patreon. He's know who Morpheus is.
So anyways, I'm almost tempted to just go look at my comic collection because I'm sure that there's something I can come up with, but there's a director who I love who's just perfectly weird, and I would love something that is kind of like Moon Knight. Maybe it doesn't have to be as dark. Something with maybe even Animal Man. Heck, it was just recently gifted to me, but like Animal Man with, but the director I'm thinking of is Michel Gondry.
Oh, I would love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Eternal Sunshine.
Because I do think that's somebody who's just so weird, specific, and their style is so specific and fringe that it could really lend itself to a fun, playful book of some sort. Yeah. There's plenty of titles that I'm sure I'm just not familiar with that it would be great with, but I'm sure that he'd also do like, every now and then we get like, speaking of Gaiman, we get like, Gaiman's Marvel 1602 or whatever, where it's like, I would love to see like something playful, like almost like Deadpool in a Michel Gondry sort of world where it's like not that version that we know and love, but like he takes something and makes it entirely unique or at a different time period or something. I don't know. I just love Michel Gondry, and I feel like God, that would be that's a director who I feel like I couldn't have imagined giving him what he would do with this quote superhero movie.
I'd love to see a full-on Judd Apatow comedy with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I think that
like a buddy cop.
We mentioned that before in the show. Yeah,
I want like a buddy cop thing, but like I don't want it to be too much action. I don't want it to be Adam McKay. I want it to be Apatow. I want it to be like day in the life. I'd also love to see the Duffer Brothers. Is that the Stranger Things guys? I think that's their name. Duffer Brothers
Sounds
do
right.
an actual 90s mall movie with the X-Men. Like I don't want even Sentinels to invade. I just want to see my mutants hang out at the mall.
The teen mall rats.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so some of those. I don't know if those are outside the box enough yet, but we're getting to the point where these things are really happening.
Yeah. Also, it's tougher because I feel like we keep coming across these same
the same
properties.
Niches.
Yeah.
But also like they're doing so many of them that it's hard to think of the. But what's funny is all the things I just described are like, please no action. Like I just I want more contained things.
And I think because of what he said, because of what he talked about, like auteurs.
Yeah.
Like action is like. I hate to say it, action's easy.
Not technically, but in the scope of it. Yeah,
exactly. We've seen so much incredible action. It's gotten to the point now where like telling a cohesive, emotionally impacting story in fantastical and odd settings in a unique way has become the really hard part.
I would love to see a Jim Jarmusch Miracle Man. I want
a Jim Jarmusch what?
Miracle. Oh shit, Miracle Man. Miracle Man.
Nailed it.
There it is.
Become a patron.
Hey, Coy, producer Jake. This is Bill from Philly. Got a question for you all that just dawned on me, so I'm hoping I'm asking this in a smart way, and it doesn't sound like I'm an idiot, because I am. So, has there ever been... So, backtrack. I know you guys talk about music a lot, and I love hearing your guys' music takes because they're so vastly different, and also music is like the first love of my life before everything. So, has there ever been... specifically in TV shows, because I feel like there's more music available in TV shows, but it can be a movie, doesn't really matter. Has there ever been a song in a show or a movie that the second you heard it, it just instantly put a smile on your face and made you love that property even more? I have two examples. I'm going to start with the one that I am less proud of. It was my guilty pleasure back in high school, and I might be showing my age here, but I used to love watching the hot garbage that was Jersey Shore. And in one of the later seasons, a song by A Day to Remember popped up, and I remember just lighting up and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Second one, this one is probably my favorite and is what made me think of the question. In the show Letterkenny, which if anyone does not watch Letterkenny, I think I heard Jake say he watched it before. And I think the latest season, a song by a hardcore band called Turnstile popped up. And I just lost my shit because I'm like, this is my favorite band meets my favorite TV show, and it was just two worlds that I never thought would collide, and it was phenomenal. So would love to hear if there was ever a song in a show or a movie that popped up that you weren't expecting and was very niche and just made you light up and kind of nerd out over music and the IP it was in. Hopefully that made sense. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Still love the show. Thanks.
I am much more of a movie guy than a TV guy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tricky for me to give you too many TV examples, but I can tell you that as soon as you said that, I am such a Rage Against the Machine, Rob Zombie, and Prodigy guy that watching The Matrix was like, I was 11 when it came out. I saw it in theaters. It blew my mind philosophically. It opened up my mind to effectively like the closest thing to a religion I have. But then the music being exactly what I listen to this day, but also then was really special because it wasn't just one song, and it was kind of like a needle drop that kept happening. Every time there was another song, I was like, you're playing Rob Zombie in a club? I kept losing it.
Every now and then you just get a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Like The Crow to this day.
Right.
I can't not think about when I hear anything from
Baby
it.
Driver,
Yeah.
you know, Guardians, like some of these were just like, yeah, no, every needle drop is a needle drop. And you go, I don't know. It's funny that you say that because you're such a movie person who came up with TV shows. I actually struggle to come up with like a specific one in a movie, but just because generally songs are so intrinsically tied to the movie and its marketing and stuff like that.
Sure.
Rarely does one surprise me. And I'm sure it has, but I'm sure I'm struggling to recall it on the spot here. But it's not a niche band. It's not a small band, and it's not a small little thing that only I'm familiar with. But I call it a cheat code. I am a massive Pearl Jam nerd because I am a 40-year-old white man. In my opinion, they're the greatest band that's ever lived. Fight me, bro. Anyways, the song "Just Breathe," which is like the really sort of quiet, beautiful little song that's in a ton of things, is a total fucking cheat code. And it's beautiful, but it's sad. It's sweet, but it's somber, right? And every now and then it gets used in a lot of things. For whatever reason, editors and people who are in charge of acquiring rights for songs in TV love this fucking song. And I remember when Castle was on the air. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion. And I love Nathan Fillion so much, and I was so excited for him to have a new project. The show was just okay. It was good. It
lasted forever.
It had little moments where it was like fun nods and like things, and it was definitely better than most procedurals because there was a through line of the woman that would be like the love interest / the cop,
right?
Trying to figure out, like, trying to solve her mother's murder. So there was always that through line, even though it was kind of Monster of the Weekish, and as far as like who was the murderer this week?
Who done it? Yeah.
Yeah, there was always that through line. And there was one episode where like they went to like a funeral or something like that, and then that song played. And I was like, oh, you sons of bitches, I'm crying because it's so good. Alexandra and I just recently finished all of Parenthood, the modern ABC version that I talked about not that long ago. It popped up at the end of one of those episodes, and I just fucking, anytime that song comes up on TV, I'm immediately weeping, and I immediately go like, this is my favorite movie.
I love
this. This is
that
my favorite TV show.
You've got a cry cue.
So yeah, Pearl Jam's Just Breathe is a total cheat code. If you just want people to feel shit, put something in slight slow motion and play Pearl Jam's Just Breathe.
Yeah, I love when emotions come out that are tied to the song and to the movie, like when they become synonymous, which is usually a full soundtrack for me. But in Get Out, they played Redbone, which is a Donald Glover song I love, a Childish Gambino song, and the lyrics I reinterpreted because of that movie. Like the song played one way for me, and then because of how powerful Jordan Peele is, it played another way. And I love when a movie can kind of like, depending on your mood, am I in Redbone Childish Gambino mode, or am I in Redbone Get Out mode?
Right.
And like, it's cool when a song can be both. Likewise, I didn't love the movie all that much. Not my genre, but in one of Rob Zombie's movies, he used Freebird in a really cool way. Mm-hmm. And they used the whole like 7-minute song.
What movie?
It was like, I think it was Devil's Rejects, where there's like a shootout, and like, you know how long Freebird is.
Yeah, of course.
Suddenly it turns into like the scope of the shootouts enhanced, very Tarantino-esque, because the song's so long.
And it's edited to the song.
Yeah, and that was kind of a cool like association. Yeah. So those definitely jump out.
I think it's going to start happening more now that there's a massive like late 80s, early 90s resurgence.
100%.
I mean, the fact that
Hip to Be Square and American Psycho, that's got to be one for me.
That's good.
Because they use it in canon, and it changed how I feel about Huey Lewis and the News.
I mean, it didn't have the same moment, but I feel like the fact that we got like the Nirvana tune in the Batman that he's like listening to, it's like eventually the nostalgia for the music of my youth is,
we're old now,
is going to be that thing where I'm not going to realize like, oh yeah, that's just hip. I'm going to be like, oh, that's so crazy. Why is there a Soundgarden song in this movie?
Yeah.
Or, you know,
they did a whole episode about Third Eye Blind on MODOK. Like, we're already that age, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening to us. But yeah, those are definitely some highlights, and I definitely think needle drops as I get older are more and more important. Like, I definitely feel the nostalgia happen at me, and I don't know if it's age or if it's, I tie my emotions very strongly to music, and like sometimes I want to feel the coolness of a movie. Like I listen to the Drive soundtrack when I'm driving the Valley. Like whenever I go to the Valley, I'm like, I want to be Gosling, and that's because of the music, not because of necessarily the visuals. So like Night Call and stuff are. Yeah, hopefully this answers your question. I loved needle.
Thanks for the call, Billy from Philly.
Hello again, Coy and Jake. This is Doug from Pittsburgh, or Darth Vadad on the Discord. I'm still dealing with Parkinson's disease tremor in my right arm, so that's why I sound a little shaky if you notice a little quaver. Anyway, I did my homework assignment and gave KoiCast a 5-star rating on Spotify. I also wrote a 5-star review of Pinch on Amazon. Listeners, go buy Pinch if you haven't seen it yet. It's a baseball season after all. Jake, I don't recall anyone attempting to bunt during pinch. Was a broken collarbone enough of a sacrifice for your art that you didn't feel like you needed to risk anyone's fingers? Also, on a more personal note, I loved a recent scene in Young Justice on HBO Max that showed Rocket has a son on the autism spectrum. My 16-year-old is on the spectrum, and back in 2011, for National Novel Writing Month, I wrote a 50,000-word superhero story about kids on the spectrum who use strange otherworldly crystals to become a super being. Someday I'll stop procrastinating and edit it to try to sell, or maybe find an artist to help me make it into a comic. But Koi, are you aware of any comics that have a specific focus on autistic characters, or comic creators who have a special connection with autism? Thanks for Koi casting, and don't forget to remind folks they can sign up for the Koi Cast Patreon to help fund this wacky weekly collaboration. Take care.
The wordplay. Wordplay.
I love this guy. So there's a lot here. First off, from the jump, thank you for the review on both the podcast and for my movie Pinch, available now on Amazon. There is some cutting room floor failed bunting.
Yep.
And you nailed it on the head. We did not too much injuries, too many people. Our ringer, Mike Foster, who played the big guy Heinrich in the movie, he was actually like an actual baseball player, like collegiate baseball player. So he was very good at it. But
I love that he immediately called it. I love that you were like,
no. Yeah, the broken collarbone was enough. So you are correct.
So as far as characters on the spectrum, my friend of the show, friend of the me, Mark Bernardin.
I was just about to say, wasn't he just promoting? Is it Adora and the Distance?
Yes.
Right. Because I just saw him on Seth Meyers promoting that.
And he has a daughter on the spectrum, and his character very much reflecting that, a love letter to that journey. And I think it's extremely important, especially with, I don't know how much listeners have awareness of it, but a lot of times women aren't diagnosed as autistic. And up until recently, there was a weird only men can be autistic, almost understood as rule, which is not true. And I know a lot of people that were diagnosed way later in life and would have had very different lives with that information. So I think it's very important to address and look at these things. So I think it's very important that creators, especially if they have that direct of an association, make that to the forefront. So I know representation is vital in all senses of the word, and it's cool to put a focus on that. So I love this question. One of my favorite characters that has been very, very autistically positive. I don't know if that's how that's phrased, but like positive in that as a strength, as a superpower. Reed Richards is autistic. Right. And I love that, they address, the hyper focus and the intelligence and all those things, but it's never been used as one of the things that is a hindrance. If anything, his hindrance is the fact that he doesn't know how to balance his other things in life. So Reed Richards has always been one for me. Legion is on the spectrum. Who is a very interesting mental character with his mental strengths and weaknesses. And that's also never been, I've seen it as a negative, which I dig, because that's a character that addresses mental illness head on. And if written poorly, I could see them using that as a negative crutch.
Right. Yeah.
Black Manta, the villain, the Aquaman villain, is another. I'm trying to think if there's any more, because it's something that
it's also been written throughout history. People that like lean Asperger's and people on the spectrum, where it's not like this character is on the spectrum, but they're just written in literal ways.
Right.
I like to think of
Sherlock.
And also you're played by your friend Anya on Buffy.
Yeah.
I always feel like that was very much like somebody.
Agreed.
Sherlock characters like Spock throughout history in Star Trek. Alexandra, I just started showing Alexandra the IT Crowd, which is one of my favorite sitcoms that she never seen. Also, by the way, sidebar, I realized that there was a finale of this show that I love so much that I never saw. Like they must have come back for a one episode season finale. So I was flicking through it on Netflix, and I was like, wait, what's this episode? I was like,
what
shit,
a gift.
I never saw the end.
What a gift.
So I was like, let's start from the beginning, showing her.
Nice.
But anyways, Richard Ayoade's character on that is like very much clearly everything is taken very literal, and it's not it's not even really meant to even make fun of them either.
Right.
It's just a personality trait.
Yeah.
And in
Well,
a way
a lot
that
of people say Kingpin on Daredevil.
Kingpin, right?
And I could totally see that with Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal. And I mean, I think hyper focus is something that is definitely a strength, and I definitely think that we're as behind as we are. I do think we've made some strides in the last 5 or 10 years that are marked. Like we're seeing these things do make some moves, and I always try to point out, because it's funny, we open this episode with like
we're not going to talk about the news this week.
But we open the episode with ostrich, like head in the sand.
Right.
But at the same time, whenever I look at how afraid I am for my friends that are LGBTQ or my friends that are marginalized in any way, I then look back at Brokeback Mountain. Like Brokeback Mountain, I remember came out at the exact time where I was starting to not understand hate, like for certain people. Like that movie came out and I was like, I don't get why there are people protesting these dudes that love each other. And it was a really interestingly naive moment as a young person going like, I just don't get it. And then I thought that was solved. And I remember being like, okay, cool. They did it. They made a movie about gay cowboys. We fixed it.
Oh, you're cute.
But that's the thing, is I was young enough to be able to be that dumb.
Right.
And I also look at that was 15, now 16 years ago, and how far we've come from Brokeback Mountain.
Right.
And though we're not far enough, it is beautiful to see that that was such a big landmark thing. And now we are so much better off, but still not far enough. And I think we're going to look at mental illness like that. Hopefully in 10 years, we'll go, hey, we've addressed a lot of this, still not far enough, but it's less of a faux pas, less of a,
Well,
so,
it's just, it's more forefront. It's less of an exception.
yes.
Right.
Because everyone's got something.
Which we talked about, and it's also like we talked about it on last week's patron only pod, because I just watched I almost called it Streetcar Named Desire, West Side Story, wrong one. And we talked about how it's like, oh yeah, the Spanish and the Spanglish isn't subtitled because it's not other.
Right.
The idea that like eventually, you know, people of all
That's
sorts,
a good way to phrase it.
It's not other. It's
not
like
othering things.
It's. I also made this. This irritated the shit out of me when Shang-Chi came out, and there was some bullshitty clickbait headline about how like diversity is something. And I remember thinking like, diversity doesn't mean not white. Shang-Chi wasn't diverse. It was mostly Asian. It was mostly Asian and Asian American people. It was not diverse at all.
Yeah.
And that's not like, and it's the idea that like there's this like coded messaging that it means not a straight white person.
Right.
And therefore, like, it's about just the fact
and that's how I feel like so many people look at this country, and it's so insane to me that like that's not what this country even looks like.
Right.
Like what are you doing?
And
like,
that's what and that's I think what's great is I think that we're gonna see more spectrum characters that are just in our media because that's part of who we are.
Because that's life. Like I was so impressed with Spider-Man Homecoming because it didn't feel like they were casting they felt like they were casting people that look like New York students.
Right.
Like it just felt like they were like, this is New York.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel othering. And I do think that's the direction we're going. So again, I don't think we're far enough, but it is nice to see so many things going in the right direction while we put our heads in the sand this week.
Sure.
And I think we got one more.
Well, we have another call from Darth Vadad.
Mm-hmm. But it's a different kind of call.
Well, he called like months ago.
Yeah.
And he said, you might want to save this for when Doctor Strange comes out. So now Doctor Strange is out. We've saved it. It's now time to use it. So we're going to go back again to you, Darth Vadad. We're going to throw back to Darth Vadad again. But this time it's a call to action for you, the listeners, and it's a fun game, and it's a thing that we could do in the next 2 weeks if you guys listen to this kind gentleman.
To celebrate the Multiverse of Madness, here's a game for listeners to challenge Coy's memory and spark Jake's creativity, or vice versa, either by call in to 818-794-0722 or by emailing your text or voice memo to contact@coycast.com. Give Jake and Coy a quick rundown of an existing multiverse scenario from comics or other media. In other words, a story that diverges from what we think of as the canon history of a familiar universe. Then pose a question about how the story ends or the fate of a specific character. For instance, in one of Disney Plus's What If episodes, Doctor Strange tries to prevent Christine Palmer's death by tapping into ever more dangerous magics. How does that story end? Coy and Jake can choose to answer the question posed if they remember the story, or come up with their own logical or wacky ending. The best part is, a multiverse of possibilities means all answers are correct. Everyone wins, except maybe Dark Doctor Strange. Have fun.
So there it is. Darth Vadad wants you guys to give us alternate dimension scenarios to see if we can either remember or just finish it.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of just finishing it. It's going to be fun.
It's also probably going to be a lot of like, okay, finish the MCU. Like
right
up until this point, finish it.
See
or
what
TV
happens.
shows. It's going to be like,
I'm really excited. Like any multiverse and any medium. And also we get to create some weirdness.
So, like he said, he gave you all the deets. He gave you the phone number. He gave you the email address. Thanks so much, Doug. You're the best.
It's like that Andrew Garfield rom-com, but times multiverse.
right.
Like I'm ready for this.
We really love you, and we're really appreciative of how supportive you are of the show.
Yeah,
and,
much
thanks for these super fun questions. So hopefully the listeners will respond to this call to action.
Yeah. Before we wrap out of here, now that we've reached the end of our hot and hotline heavy, I'm going to give you guys some quick comic recommendations and get on out of here. The comic weeks are getting smaller, and I don't know if it's because of mergers. I don't know if it's because of
you just said mergers, right?
Yeah,
because it sounded like you said murders.
There's less comics. Are we killing the comic characters?
I don't know if this is because of murder.
Frankly, a lot of death. No,
it's not me to say.
Just like in you haven't read Crossover. In Crossover, there's comic book characters hunting down comic creators, and it's awesome. That's why.
Right.
But yeah, so there's less and less, and I don't know if it's mergers. I don't know if it's because they're kind of pivoting into their summer slate. I don't know what's happening, but less comics. But these are the ones I'd recommend you pick up tomorrow, the 11th of May. Captain America, Symbol of Truth, #1. Crossover, speaking of crossover, #13. Hulk versus Thor, Banner War Alpha. That's a comic title. Killlock, Artisan Wraith, #3. Moon Knight, Black and White and Blood, #1. If you dug Moon Knight the show, this is an anthology book where you have no need for any prior Moon Knight knowledge. You can just pick this bad Larry up and get some Moon Knight tales. New Mutants 25, Noctera 10, Seven Secrets 17, Shang-Chi #12, Time Before Time #10, What If Miles Morales #3, and X-Men 11 are the books that I'm picking up tomorrow. As far as last week's comics, my favorite books from last week were Batman Killing Time #3, which is a Tom King, David Marquez joint that is gorgeous and well written. This is probably my most fun issue of this run. I was a little worried at 1 and 2. 3 really got me. I'm on board. Deadly Class #52. We're nearing the end of the series of Deadly Class. And once again, thank you to Robin West Parker, who picked up the big mega I don't even know what they call it, like mega edition, the oversized
omnibus?
print.
No.
It's like an omnibus, but it's bigger. Like the actual comic is bigger.
Right.
But the hardcover of Deadly Class.
It's like those animal
like the Animal Mans. And Robin picked it up for me, and he left it at Golden Apple, and I just got to go pick up a brand new comic, and I'm so appreciative, and that is my favorite. I am actually probably going to read the entire run of Deadly Class through to prep for the finale, because it's going to be real bittersweet for me, because that comic's meant the world to me for years. Firepower #20, Radiant Black #14, Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, as Jake pointed out last week, the most 90s shit, but the book is so good. #7, and finally Spider-Man 2099 Exodus Alpha, the only thing more 90s than Righteous Thirst for Vengeance.
You actually can't say Righteous I
See?
can't say
See?
it. I can't say it. God damn it. I was going to say you can't say it without making that sound.
The oomph?
Yeah.
Righteous Thirst for Vengeance.
It's impossible to say it.
Because it's like a trailer voice. It just comes out of you.
Can't believe that. I literally said, you can't say,
You can't
and
say
then
the thing I
couldn't
can't say.
the thing.
Yeah, it's because of the oomph.
I ran out of coffee 20 minutes ago.
It's
I just
been a
want
real
you to
problem.
know that's the problem.
Too hot and hotline heavy. That's going to do it for this week, you lovelies. Please, but here I am. I'm catching up to Jake. Please do rate and review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Those 5-star reviews keep us warm. You got one?
Well, speaking of which, we said we were going to read some new reviews.
Yeah. I'm ready.
There's 2 I want to read. I don't know if we actually read this one or not. The first one I want to read is from Hold My Brick. We may have read this one. I don't know.
This guy.
Best podcast around, 5 stars. I'm a very longtime fan of Coy. Have followed him since the early episodes of Marvel movie news. You better believe I was excited when I found out Coy had a podcast. This podcast lives up to the hype that I set myself up for. I don't miss an episode. It also introduced me to this great guy that is #1, producer Jake. I wish you guys many more great episodes and maybe one day a filmed podcast?
Ooh.
Question mark. I'll leave that up to you guys. Yours truly, Hold My Brick, 5 stars. Thanks a lot for that. Listen, if we get enough patrons, we're at the PLP, maybe one day we will consider doing a video version of the show. But for now, we got to keep it streamlined. But that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And then there's this one, which is my new all-time favorite review, Coy.
What do you got? I'm listening. I'm focused.
AC Slater son, April 27th, 2022. Bummer, dude. 2 stars. I've followed Koi since Marvel movie news. Jake has completely turned me off to his good vibes. An absolute wet blanket. Jake complains about people commenting on trailers, people talking about shows and movies the day they come out online, and not seeing movies because of his better half. The Batman is a prime example. I'm a year younger than Jake, and I think he's absolutely ridiculous in his old man views around pop culture and the internet. Can't watch a show the day it comes out? Don't go on the internet. Holding a podcast back because he's so whipped he has to wait for his lady to watch things with him? Dude, read the audience. I used to be a Patreon subscriber to Koi's, but I ended it because this lag in discussions being hamstrung by Jake. Want to not be annoyed by people at the movies? Go during a weekday and matinee. Oh, you can't because your girlfriend? Whip crack sound. That's AC Slater son with a 2-star review.
Oh, okay. So a lot to address there. One, has this person ever been in a relationship in his life? Because you have a very normal, like, I think respecting your better halves wants is a very realistic goal.
We like sharing our art with each other.
It's almost like you enjoy each other's company and perhaps want to have discussions. 2, I really appreciate the fact that I covered Batman everywhere, including here. You did not in any way. I did not see Batman because of your relationship. I saw it early. And 3,
if only you talked about it somewhere in the internet.
It's so weird that I only talk about pop culture here though. Right. That's the problem. I don't have any other networks or outlets.
I'm just gonna say this, AC Slater's son. If you're still listening, I'm gonna talk all about you on this week's patron only pod. So if you want to hear my thoughts on AC Slater's son, tune into this week's patron only pod. I'm going to talk ad nauseum about.
I love that he stopped being a patron of mine because of you.
About my opinions on this review. You can hear all about it on. It's going to be an AC Slater son spectacle.
If you want to hear about Doctor Strange, you want to hear about AC Slater's son, you want to hear about the other art we've consumed, check out the Patreon only pod,
on the Patreon only pod, which of course you can find
at koicast.com. We got down at the bottom if you're on mobile, or over to the side if you're on your desktop. We've also got merch over there. We got shirts, we got masks, we got mugs. The Patreon is really, I've been so happy to see you guys jump over there. It means the world, like, truly. And honestly, this is one of the more time intensive as far as like in a single day. Like, I do stuff everywhere for an hour or 2 at a time, but we are here for literally 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it really helps to know that it's
and that doesn't include your time prepping news, your time doing, like, seeing things
and reading all the books I read.
Your girlfriend's not holding you back.
That's me, you know.
And my time in the post-production, in the actual, like, the electronics.
10 hours of prep plus sitting here for a long time. It's nice to just know that it's received. So we just appreciate it.
And by the way, you can, it's not a One Direction thing. You also get stuff. You get the patron only pod. In fact, you also have an opportunity to be the official unpunchable gift horse of the month, which our current one is Gilbert Short. Thank you so much, Gilbert. If you want to challenge him for the month of June, then you've still got time. You got to head on over to koicast.com, click the patron link, become a patron, become a gift horse, and you can get that. And by the way, it's not just fun and title. You get a free shirt from the shop for winning that, and you get to pick something, hopefully that's available, for Koi and I to watch and discuss on the patron only pod for whatever month you win.
Yeah.
I don't think that Gilbert's told us what he wants yet. But at some point, he's going to make us watch something by the end of the month, and we're going to talk all about it.
Yeah, so get on in there. Get in that patron.
Lots of fun perks.
And then check us out on social media. I'm at Koi Jondro. He's at Jake Lloyd Bacon. You can use hashtag KoiCast to get our attention. And also 818-794-0722 to reach us, to be a hot and hotline heavy call yourself. That is 818-794-0722. Or you can send a voice memo to contact@koicast.com. That is going to be it for this week, you lovelies. We'll be back actually next week. This is not an every 2-weeker because this month's been crazy. So we'll be back next week. So get those calls in as per your call to arms for multiversal action. We'll be back next week to record some more good stuff. And if you want to check out Jake's thoughts and my thoughts on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and his thoughts on AC Slater's Salon and more, tune in to the Patreon only pod over at koicast.com. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, as always, to Comic Books for existing. We'll see you next week.
Scott Narver here, along with
Jake Lloyd Bacon.
We're actors and comedians, but far more importantly, we're both lifelong pro wrestling fans.
In fact, we're the Pro Wrestling Palskis.
We talk about old wrestling.
We talk about new wrestling.
We talk about wrestling in the future.
It is not a wrestling recap show. It's a wrestling conversation show.
So tune in at pwpalskis.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.